So, yeah. This is a This is a review of Dunkirk, the Christopher Nolan movie. I just saw it. Last week I had seen another film that, and I couldn't see two in 1 week. So not this time. So I saw Dunkirk this week. Yes, it's a war movie about World War II. It's about the battle of evacuation of Dunkirk, which is a beach town in France. Dunkirk, but they say Dunkirk with a K. But yeah, mainly it's a visual story told from the vantage point of soldiers on the ground, a couple of three airline pilots flying RAF jets, not jets, propeller planes, and some German aircraft as well. So suspense. Yeah, that they painted to so you could tell them apart in the movie. Christopher Nolan plays with time and space and things like that. He does in a lot of his movies. It's good. It's Oscar worthy for its narrative and its moving depiction of World War II. Unfortunately, it's July when it came out, so I doubt the Oscars will even remember Dunkirk come Oscar time at all, because of that. They usually don't remember movies that are before October, late October, Halloween, or in November and December, and then if some come out in January, they say no, it was December. They do that a lot. They did it last year, the year before, the year before, the year before. They've kind of done that for a decade, in some form or another. And what's funny is now that it's 7 months into 2017, there's really no other movie to compete with it for the Oscar caliber. There haven't really been. I mean, you're not going to give Guardians of the Galaxy 2 an Oscar. There's been nothing, no big Pixar movie this year. It appears that, like last year where we had Zootopia and Moana. There is one coming out called Coco. So anyway, but yeah, it's later. And Spider-Man: Homecoming's not going to get an Oscar. Come on. But yeah, Dunkirk though. It's I'm going to be fairly brief with this because there it is. World War II movie. There's different patches of time going on. There's like this air battle that's taking probably an hour. There is, and so I've heard from other reviews of the movie that it's an hour. The day of them moving off the beach is confusing because the whole thing took place in a week, but the day of them actually sending for the civilian boats and all that was a day. So there's sort of this time period in the middle where they launch boats and they come over there to get them, and then there's this other time period where the planes are going on, and they mix it all in together with the attack on the beach. So I think it's minor spoilers there. It's not meant to be a documentary. It's not meant to be entirely accurate. It's Chris Nolan's version of the Dunkirk events, and it apologizes for it being fiction at the end. That it's not a documentary. And that the characters are fictionalized and composites and things like that. The doc master guy is two different people in the real story. There's no young boy on the. There might have been a teenager on the ship, but on the boat, but that's something Chris Nolan made up. There's Tom Hardy's character, who's the pilot, probably made up. Although there were Air Force people there. The actual Air Force was way more than 3 people that were going in there. So otherwise, how would they have all gotten off the beach afterward? Yeah, and there was a U-boat scene that was kind of confusing because they showed another pilot who was on I guess it looked like a plane, but maybe it was a capsized ship, and he gets rescued. And he mentions a U-boat. Well, it must have been then it was like, oh, okay, maybe that's a ship propeller and not a airplane. The bottom of a boat kind of thing going on. And then there's people trying to get out of another boat that's sinking, and they keep going back to the boat that's sinking. And then there was another boat that was sinking that was a medical boat. It was a destroyer, French destroyer disguised as a British one. That one was sinking too. And there was some guys trapped in another boat that was on shore. They were waiting for the tide to come in, and there was a tense scene where they were going after them. Yeah, and yeah. So I'm not going to give away everything, but you have to go and see it. See it in theaters because it's an epic sort of tale. Yeah, Dunkirk. Yeah, it's definitely a 4-star movie for what it is. It's not a character movie in the sense that we don't really know anything about them in the beginning, don't learn much about them in the middle, and although what they're doing on the beach is something, we don't know anything about their past or story or history or anything when it finally ends. Also, it was confusing, especially to see it twice, in that if the Germans who were attacking France at that point were that vicious that they were, but if they were that vicious in that battle, then why wouldn't they have turned around and attacked all the civilian boats when they were coming in? Just saying, like, why didn't they go, oh, the civilian boats are coming, let's attack them too, yes, and go after them, which would have been the end of the story. In the movie, I'm not saying that happened in the story, it's in the movie. There's this weird continuity thing. I had looked up the Dunkirk story. I don't know much about European World War II, no more about the Pacific one. And in European World War II, apparently, the actual story of Dunkirk was one of the earlier World War II stories, and there were more people present and more rescue groups present. But in the movie, they have found it difficult to convey that, so they said, okay, this group here, this group flying in, this other one, this group on a boat, and then other people on other boats. Let's just film them and tie their stories all together and make this sort of like epic thing. And it's story making. It's Hollywood, and yeah, so they did. And it is fictionalized version of Dunkirk. It's not actually the real story. But in the movie, in the context of the movie, I'm not trying to insult Dunkirk thing from 70 years ago. Just trying to say, like, in the movie, it's like, well, you kind of have to explain some things. I know there were a few cue cards and the title cards in the beginning, and I know they showed the guys and said something about the 1-hour flight and the whole week thing, but it passes too quickly, and there should have been some sort of other dialogue thing as well as the cue cards. They should have had them emphasize that, oh yeah, by the time the civilian boats show up, it's almost a week later, and everything you're seeing now is the last day of the action. Basically, they're here, they're coming, the last day of the action. So, yeah, just convey that a little better. And cutting back to the Jerrys in the planes and other guys, and they weren't Jerrys, were they? The guys in the planes and the other guys coming in and back and forth to that other stuff that happened earlier, and then stuff that happened later to connect the dots because you forgot. Because clearly you forgot is not the way to tell the story. The editing was weird, and they could have just put it linearly, but it's Chris Nolan, who everything's kind of a dream fantasy to that guy. Works in a Batman movie. Not so much in Batman Dark Knight Rises, because how did he get out of that pit and back to Gotham? Come on. But or the Dream one where the top spun, but it didn't, Inception. But here, there's kind of this sort of dreamy Wonderland kind of thing going on. Not supposed to be. It's supposed to be reality. It's supposed to be actually happening. So there were some confusions there with that. That kind of didn't work because they just didn't think, oh, well, let's just not add more and reshoot more stuff. Let's try to explain why the boat's there, who it's coming across linearly, and then get to the end. I think it might have been more, made more sense, but he wanted to be creative, and yeah, that's fine. But yeah, at least explain, okay, at the end, retell the story. If it took a week, and retell that and say like, okay, oh, Charlie and you guys, you've been on the boat. One gun guy's name. You've been on the boat, and it's been a week, and you've come back. That works. Also, probably what amounts to a continuity error. None of them are mentioned online. It's a big continuity error too. Is that German error? It's like if they were hunkered down that bad, and there were 300,000 of them, and the Germans were attacking them, why wouldn't they have attacked the civilian boats? And more to the point, why wouldn't they have attacked everybody? Where were they? So there should have been something during the final invasion to convey, or rescue, to convey that the Germans stopped attacking them for some reason. Not just the part where the boat hero guy turns around and goes, oh, I'll face them this way and put up my flag thing. He wasn't the one that stopped them, because that doesn't make sense. There had to be, like, I know there were other boats behind him. Did they do that too? Because maybe they could say, like, the call went out and the other boats did that too, or they could have called the admiral or something, and the commander, and they could have said, look, okay, we're going to evacuate our men, and we want you guys to stop shooting us. Yes, be good chaps. And they could be all, okay, we're going to let you go. Yeah. There should have been something like that in there, because there probably was in the actual story. Because if there were hundreds of them coming in to rescue thousands, 100,000 of them, and then more than hundreds, there were actually hundreds of planes coming in too. And there weren't just 3, but in the movie they wanted to convey that there were 3. So it was an evacuation from everybody, everywhere. So at some point, the faceless enemy, the Germans, that you don't really see, must have done something to back off. That's what I'm saying. In the actual story, and that would have helped to have something like them saying, because in the dogfight they didn't back off; they were shooting at each other. But yeah, there should have been some sort of, and that is a continuity error. There's the scene missing. But yeah, so let's review the movie Dunkirk, not the actual event. The movie, Chris Nolan's movie, Oscar worthy, but came out too soon. And yeah, so 4 stars, but yeah, it's 89, 90% of Rotten Tomatoes as well. Yeah, so, but yeah, if it's not supposed to be a character driven, in that you don't learn anything about them from beginning to end, you just learn they're heroes on a beach, that's fine. That's a technique, that's fine. But yeah, and it's good to come up with some criticism of a movie, even if it's good. It means you liked it. But yeah, so that is my review of Dunkirk. They showed a preview of the Star Wars Episode 8, as well as it's already been released, behind-the-scenes trailer of It's a Wrap. You've probably already seen that online. And they give away some, not really spoilers, but scene breaks, and said, and every time they make a new movie, they say, oh, it's the most original one ever, the most daring, we're going in a different direction. They always say that. Yes. Even though The Force Awakens was a little derivative of the first and second one, this one may not be derivative of the other ones. I should say the first and second one from 40 years ago or so. It's 40th anniversary of Star Wars, coming up on the 30th anniversary of The Next Generation, and the 51st of Star Trek, which they're going to add a new show, Star Trek Discovery. Yeah, so Star Trek is doing stuff, and Star Wars is doing stuff at the same time. And yeah, so Dunkirk is a fantasy version of events. Go and see it. It's fun. It's exciting. I have not given away anything, so you may put the review up without spoilers. Anyways, yeah. Anyway.